Welcome to Joan of Art, the weekly podcast where we investigate and celebrate people who make art.
Dear madam, dear sir, dear madam, dear sir, dear madam, dear sir, dear madam, dear sir, dear madam.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Joan of Art. I am super happy to be interviewing 3 extremely talented people who live and work in the Twin Cities. My first guest is Erin Sayer. She is a painter and a muralist and an artist that I've had the good fortune to collaborate with several times. We're also going to be interviewing Yuya Negishi, who is an artist who has just been living in the Twin Cities for a few years. He hails from Japan, and he also is a muralist and a painter. And I'm also going to be talking to Inna Valin, who is a photographer who does exploratory documentary work in the Twin Cities that is really awesome. I'm so glad that you could join us today, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Joan of Art. So, Erin, I want to open up with you today. Hey, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to you and Yuya together a little bit because you guys just came back from a really amazing trip. And this is not the first time that you've done something like this. You make these like annual runs out to the West Coast and paint these gigantic murals and go to concerts and camp and just have like a really good supportive community out there. What cities did you go to?
Well, usually I go to Seattle, San Francisco, Portland, but this time we went to Sasquatch Music Festival, and that was at the Gorge. And
where's the Gorge?
It's in George, Washington.
Wait, George, Washington. Just the city's called George?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's on the other side, on the eastern side of the mountains before you get into Seattle, about an hour and a half away from Seattle. Then we went to Portland for a little R&R, but it didn't turn into R&R. It was actually really fun.
Okay.
And then we went to Bend, Oregon for 3 weeks to do a couple murals there. And then we went to Yellowstone and South Dakota and came home. So
Wow, that sounds awesome. How long were you gone?
About 5 weeks.
That's great. So I know that you did a really massive mural in Bend, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
So you painted the side of the amphitheater?
Yeah, they have this place called Les Schwab Amphitheater, and it's their outdoor music venue or entertainment venue in Bend, and it's centrally located. They have tons of awesome concerts and like brew fests and all sorts of events. And so I did the back of the stage in 2013. And
what did you do in 2013?
I did a big crow on the
wow.
back of their stage. And then I also painted a bee on the front of the stage.
And how big are we talking? Like, how big is big?
I think it's 45 feet tall by 100 feet wide.
So are you, like, up in a lift?
Yeah.
So you're just alone in a lift with spray cans?
Mm-hmm. It's fun.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and there's mountains everywhere.
Wow.
And this time I painted a big owl on the front of the stage.
I remember seeing that on Facebook, and I also remember seeing a post of you saying, wow, I get to see the Doobie Brothers play in front of my owl.
Yeah.
I have to say I was really jealous. I was like, who gets to make a work of art that huge for the public, but then see the Doobies jam in front of it? That must have been amazing.
It was, and I wasn't expecting it because a lot of bands put up backdrops to cover it, for their sets, and they didn't. It was funny because they started putting the backdrop up, and it got about halfway up, and then all of a sudden it just came down.
Like
when
it
they
failed?
were setting up. No, someone was like, "Don't put that up. Just have the owl showing."
Nice.
So that was cool.
That's super cool.
And then Fish is going to play, and then Wilco's going to play, and Willie Nelson's playing, and there's a bunch of other awesome artists that are going to play. And some of them use it and some of them don't, so we'll see which ones actually.
That's exciting, and you can probably follow the photographs online to see.
Yeah, they usually tag me or something.
That's great. I want to ask, how did you get that gig?
Well, I'm lucky enough to be from college. A college friend of mine runs the venue.
Oh, nice.
So we were on Facebook, and we hadn't talked in 20 years.
Wow.
And she got a hold of me in 2013 and was like, do you want to come out and paint this stage for us? And I said, yes.
Of course. So I just think one thing I want to point out for our listeners is that you are one of the few women in town that I know of, and maybe you can corroborate this, that does large-scale murals with spray paint. Mm-hmm. So I think that it's something that's hard to land those gigs, for one thing, but also, like, you know, the fact that you are fearless about being up, 40, 50, 60 feet in the air in a cherry picker. Where did you learn to, like, work the machinery?
Well, I've been working in the theater since high school and doing backdrops for theater. So and then in college I did backdrops. And then did my first experience on a big lift was in Chicago. I worked for the Chicago Public Art Group with this woman, Olivia Goody, who's like a really famous public artist. And she taught me the ins and outs of putting up scaffolding and hauling paint around and getting on lifts and just being a total badass.
Well, that's the way I see it. I remember we collaborated, I think it was in 2012, I want to say, mm-hmm. and you did the mural on the side of Rainbow Chinese. You did that beautiful Panda Bear mural, and that is on Nicollet Avenue. And I remember coming out to kind of like check on you and just see how things were going, and you banged that out in like 5 days by yourself, completely by yourself, without any help. And I remember you just like being up and down in that lift and being freaked out. And those were the two words that I thought. I was like, Erin is a total badass. Like, I would be terrified, but that's cool. So your education, you didn't go to college to be a muralist.
Well, I did. I mean, I went for painting, and then I was the first person at my school. I was at St. Mary's in South Bend, Indiana, to do a mural for my senior project.
Oh, wow.
So I've been doing large-scale murals since I was 18.
Yeah,
or 16 even.
And then you went on to teach for a little while.
Yep, at Benilde St. Margaret's, and it was really weird because that's where I graduated.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I was art teacher there, and then doing the theater there. So and I still do theater there.
Okay, but now you really are working as a professional artist. Your mural commissions are what get you by throughout the year, and you just keep scoring them. Do you find it to be really challenging to find work? Do you have to really hunt it down, or I suppose it's a mixture of both.
I've been really lucky because people have been contacting me to do projects. I think it's harder to score art shows with paintings.
Right, like in galleries and things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's hard to sell paintings, too, so I've been just focusing on the big mural projects.
But you did have a show this past spring at the Gamut Gallery, which was something that you'd been working on for about a decade?
Yes.
Can you tell us what that was about?
Okay, well, I've been working on a series of paintings based on Tom Robbins' novels. He's this awesome author, started writing in the 70s. He's still alive. He's like in his early 80s.
You want to tell us some of the titles of his books?
His most famous, I think, is Even Cowgirls Get the Blues. I would call it philosophical, maybe we should edit this part.
No, that's okay. But yeah, it is. It's like really fantastic, like fantasy kind of, but it's also like it touches on a lot of philosophical and ennui and stuff.
Yeah. What does Dali do? Surrealism. Philosophical surrealism.
There you go. You got it.
And combined with pop culture.
Yeah, a lot of pop culture and new wave ideas and a lot of Terrence McKenna, enlightening, opening your mind, that kind of stuff. He's a feminist, which is huge.
Mm-hmm. Which I know you totally identify with. Mm-hmm. And we've collaborated to work with the Guerrilla Girls in the past, which was a great collaboration. But so you made this series of oil paintings. Some of them were really quite big. Mm-hmm. How many paintings did you create?
I think almost 30. And I'm still working on them because I have another show in San Antonio in the spring. So I still have to keep working on the series.
Because you sold a few.
Yeah, I've sold like half the series.
Wow.
A lot of people identify with the books, and a lot of people have read them, and not very many people have done art based on his stuff. So it's unique in that respect.
And when you went out to Oregon the last time, you actually brought what you had for a show there.
Actually, it was a solo show in Seattle, and then I did a mural on this bar called the Blue Moon, based on Tom Robbins, and that's where he hangs out when he goes to Seattle and stuff. So it's like one of the oldest bars in Seattle. It's got a lot of history, and it was like a great opportunity and so much fun.
And you got to meet him.
Yep, he came to the show. He bought a piece.
Whoa.
He's like the nicest. He and his wife and his little dog came.
That's awesome.
It was really sweet of him. He's one of my major influences. So
That was a dream come true.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, awesome. So I know that we're going to be working on something that we can't talk about yet, which is excruciating. But maybe by the time this launches, we'll be able to talk about it. But we're going to be collaborating on a large-scale mural downtown. So that's all I can say at this point, but I'm really excited for that. I want to talk to you also, Yuya. Welcome to Joan of Art.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm very excited
Yeah.
to share my story with you guys.
Yeah, so I'm going to start out just with you and Erin's trip, just segue into that. So you went along with Erin. You guys, it sounds like you had the time of your life, and I'm really jealous. But you also had some work that you did while you were out there. So what did you make while you guys were traveling?
From this trip, right?
Yeah.
I painted the staircase, same area in Bend, Oregon, close to Erin's mural. And then
It was beautiful. I saw it online. It was lovely. And
Thank you.
It's funny, too, because I've seen several staircases painted before, and it looks like it's not easy to line it all up so that the visual looks good from far away.
it's very, very difficult.
Did it take you a long time? Had you ever done that before?
No, totally first time. And I painted many murals in the past, so I thought I can do it, right?
Yeah.
But actually, it was really difficult.
Yeah, I was really impressed. It seems
Because-
like it required a lot of technical ability.
So each step has a 7 inches height and 96 inches wide. So each section has 17 steps. So, when I look at people, kids coming out, adult, their height is different, right? So it's difficult to put the specific outlines. So if I, outline it half inch off, it doesn't look right. So I have to step back, back and forth, and then paint it over. Okay, this is right. So
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how long from start to finish did it take for you to complete that?
a little less than 2 weeks.
Wow.
right.
God, you guys don't waste any time.
Time is money.
Right. And you don't want all your time spent painting because there was a lot of partying to be had, right?
A little bit. It's way too fun out there.
I bet. So Yuya, tell me, and I can't believe that I haven't even talked to you about this before, but so how long have you been living in Minneapolis?
It's almost about 5 years, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when you came here in 2010,
2010, October 16th.
can you tell us what brought you here?
Sure.
You came a long way.
Uh-huh. So, okay, original story. I really want to move to America when I was little. I think I mentioned this one for the Philly page article, but I saw the movie called American Graffiti when I was 13 years old, and I really loved it. Culture, fashion, music, and art. So I was already dreaming about, I want to go someday,
So you've been an artist your whole life. You've been painting, and I mean, did something change when you got here, or?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Because I have seen a bunch of Asian art. I love travel, and wherever I go to foreign country, I usually try to see the, art scene, such as museum, local artist art, mingle with the artists wherever I go. So I got inspired, and same here.
And I have to say for our listeners that a lot of Yuya's work really is inspired with those traditional Asian themes.
Oh, thank you.
Which is really beautiful, but it seems like you're really pushing it and making really big works. You have several murals around town. Do you want to tell us where some of those are located?
Sure. My most recent mural that I did was before we go to travel, uptown location, Japanese restaurant called Origami. And then I painted the Japanese food dog, kind of unionized food dog. Do you know what that is?
No.
I think spelled like Hoodog. It's like a Japanese one of those mythological animal, which often you see when you go shrine or temple. It's like a guardian angel, stone statue thing.
Ooh.
Kind of like MIA, they have one of those big,
Yeah.
monster-looking one. Yeah, I paint the face and also hallway. To go to the bathroom, I painted the crane and some pine trees and beautiful stuff.
Very
Yeah,
beautiful.
you have to go and see it.
That's great. So what city are you from originally? in Japan?
Called the Gunma Prefecture, so which located above Tokyo, like 3 hours driving towards north.
Okay.
Very countryside.
So it's not a big city.
No at all.
Did you spend a lot of time in Tokyo?
Not really. I like to visit there, but it's a little bit too busy because I grew up in the countryside, farmer family. So Tokyo, too much. But I like to.
But America's
be
not
there.
too much.
Minneapolis is really good size for me. Not too big, not too small. Very comfortable to me.
Yeah. This town, maybe so. But yeah. So was that your first time out west when you and Erin went?
I've been to West Coast many times, but for art-wise, twice. I had a solo show in Seattle last year in May. And then the year before, Erin did a touring thing. What's that called?
Cult Status on Tour.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You guys should know that Erin was a gallerist, and she ran the gallery Cult Status gallery here in Minneapolis and Uptown. For how long did you run that gallery?
3 years.
3 years. And you did how many shows?
Like 40 or 50.
It was crazy. So I just remember you turning the space around like once a month.
Yep.
For a really long time. That was really generous of you.
It's a lot of work.
I know.
So much work.
One thing I know about you is you're not afraid to do a lot of work.
I'm hardworking.
Yes, you are. But so Yuya, so what was your impression about working on the West Coast versus here? Was there anything about it that was different or that you noticed?
Yes, I learned a lot through this trip. We are like kind of vacation work. And then, when I was thinking about the ideas for being away from Minneapolis and then totally out of nowhere, I never been there. And then, seeing the beautiful nature for new inspiration came up.
Sure.
Yeah.
You went to Yellowstone. That must have been magnificent.
That too. I think my art will be changed a little bit.
I think it's really important for artists to do that, which is kind of sad that some of our granting systems have limited us.
Yeah. I'm so glad,
Yeah.
I think it's imperative for artists to have a really good network outside of the city where they're from.
Absolutely.
I agree. And it's hard to do. I mean, it's hard enough to try to make your way here, but to also be able to branch out.
Well, and it just takes one person. Like, it's really easy to connect with people online now. And, connecting with people online is one thing. You sort of have a weird relationship, like, oh, that's my Facebook friend, or
right.
I love that person on Instagram. But I was in Seattle, and I met the artist Ryan Henry Ward, who's a very prolific muralist in Seattle. He had had this, like, front cover page of the Seattle Stranger, and I was like, look, there's the artist where we see all of his murals everywhere. We should, and it gave his Facebook information. So I got a hold of him on Facebook, met him in person, and we've developed an awesome working relationship, and we've been back and forth to Seattle. He's come here, he did a mural here, he had a show here, and just that one connection has blossomed into, like, now I have a giant network of friends in Seattle.
That makes a lot of sense, and it really is as easy as that. I mean, I can attest to, like, we're in such an interconnected world, and there's the downside to that, but one of the upsides is that you can really forge these relationships online.
But it's really important to meet the person meet them in person.
Of course. Right.
Rather than just trying to be lazy at your house and like, oh, I'm friends with you on Facebook.
Is that the sound of the person who does that? I'm friends with you.
I mean, you really have to work hard as an artist. It's really, really important to have a good network. And in order to do that, you have to do it in person. That's the only way.
I agree. I spend a lot of time meeting a lot of people online also, but, people that I think make sense to work with, I always feel the same way, that you have to go out for coffee or meet and just talk, because you can't have those authentic exchanges online, and they're important. And artists need to be able to trust you too, and you need to be able to trust them. So I think that's a huge component to that face-to-face meeting. So yeah, I agree with you. But I do also encourage people to do that as much as they can, even though it's difficult.
Yeah, I think people are a little afraid to get out of their studios. Or artists are.
Right. And some are less outgoing than others, and I think you're pretty outgoing.
Yeah,
so that's helpful, and not shy to meet new people.
Well, what's the worst that could happen? They say no.
Right.
I mean,
or you just met somebody and you're not going to talk to them again?
Yeah,
that's
it's
okay.
not a big deal.
Right. That's totally okay. So Yuya, I got to ask you, I keep jumping back and forth. I hope that's okay. But when you first moved here, did you speak English?
I studied a little bit before I come.
Okay.
But speaking English in Japan and here is totally different.
Okay.
Yeah. because if I cannot pronounce well, people can understand. So I'm learning every day.
I find
New
it really
vocabulary.
easy to talk to you, so I'm kind of amazed that in 5 years' time that your dialect would be this good and this fluent. So I know I would never be able to do that if I were to go to Japan. It would take a long time.
But if you're there, you have to,
Yeah,
speak
you're
their
immersed,
language.
right.
Yeah, otherwise, I can't survive.
Do you think there was a lot of benefit to just throwing yourself into Minneapolis? And did you know people before you came here?
None.
You didn't know anyone?
Very good timing. When I got here, super cold. Wow, I hear Minnesota is cold, but I didn't know that cold. I never heard of the word such as wind chill. I was like, 何ですか? So anyway, yeah, I love it here.
You do? Even the winter? Have you gotten used to the winter?
Yeah, to be honest, maybe one thing complaining about Minnesota just being cold. That's it. Other than that, I love it.
Yeah. I think we have a pretty amazing community here. We're really
Right.
lucky. But I think I want to ask you guys this now that we brought up winter. What the heck? Do you think that all that cold and all the suffering that we endure in winter is helpful to your practice in some way?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I get lots of teaching gig in the winter time because we cannot paint, for example, outside mural. We can do it if it's cold. So
Right.
teaching commission work, back to hold a brush again instead of spray paint in the summertime, So to me, it's good, really good, like hibernating, creativity time.
I think that's kind of one of the benefits.
Do you find that too, Erin? Do you?
To a point. I did spend a lot of time painting for my show in the spring this year, but I really have to get out at least a month in the winter because
Where do you go?
anywhere. Like last year I was in Vermont,
Nice.
and even though that was cold, it's not. But like we were having polar vortexes here.
Yes.
Not last year, the year before. And Vermont was like just getting beautiful snow. So,
Yeah, it's very different than 60 below.
but
for
this
2
year,
weeks.
my cousin's moving to Venice Beach, and I'm like, I think maybe I'll go there this winter.
California. Nice.
Yeah.
Let's get a wall there.
Venice Beach. I went there when I was 20. That was a really exciting thing to see. As a 20-year-old. So Yuya, do you have some stuff that Yuya, you're going to be helping Erin and I and another artist out with this big project that we can't talk about.
Right.
But what else do you have going on? I know that you're working in the Midway.
That too, but soon I have a meeting with the Walker people.
Ooh.
And then, the internet cat video.
Yes.
So I'll be painting giant cat mural in a studio.
Okay,
Yes,
for
involved.
listeners who don't know, I mean, you probably, if you are listening and you're from the Twin Cities, there's a good chance that you know about the Internet Cat Video Festival. But if you don't, it's something that was kicked off 2 years ago. Am I right? There's been 2, I think.
I guess so.
Okay, and it was like the most well-attended event of the year. It was like insane. There were like, I don't know the number, but it was just incredible. And so now it's an annual tradition that people look forward to. So now you're going to be doing 2 like big cat backdrops. Is that the deal? Or
I'm still thinking about it, but the idea, so I'm thinking build a panel and then put it in a studio. And so I have 2 hours painting time.
2 hours?
I think so.
Wow. So are you just going to do like an ink thing? Or
I can't use the spray paint, so I'm going to do hand brush. But I think if 2 hours, so I'll get it done at my studio space, maybe 50%, and then I bring it, and then during the event. So I want to finish.
do you guys know what the date is for that?
It's August 12th.
August 12th. Okay.
And also I'll be doing something sweet stuff inside the Walker Art Center building,
Okay.
20th.
Okay. And do you have a cat?
Yes, I have 2 cats. That's why. Yeah, I'm so
Is this
excited.
why? Okay. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'll be excited to see that. And then I thought that you were also working on the Midway doing some mural work there too, or something for St. Paul. What are you doing there?
Me and 3 other artists. So we will be painting like half-mile stretched wide range mural.
Whoa.
If on the snelling, people going to state fair. So mosaic lady, Lori, she's already started doing it because she's a mosaic, takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I think I'll be starting pretty soon.
Okay.
The Midway
excited.
Mural. What's it called? The Midway Mural Project.
Yeah.
And it's through Public Art St. Paul. Okay, that's exciting. What building are you going to be on?
I'll be working for Kim's Market and Vietnamese jewelry store and Korean heritage house.
So 3 different pieces?
They have a big commercial building, and then they have 3 business owners. They are all immigrants, just like myself. So actually, these 4 big buildings that we will put a mural, they are all immigrants.
That's
Like
awesome.
yeah. So
That's inspiring.
I
Cool.
will-
I'm excited to see that too. Well, thank you, Erin and Yuya. I want you to stay on with the conversation as we next up talk to Inna Valin.
The term foodie can sometimes come across as a tickle pretentious. BT and Lydia are here to demystify the term and reclaim it for the sake of good food. Their weekly podcast brings in fellow foodies and culture creators from the Twin Cities to talk about all things food. Find this duo only on the Alive and Social Network. Hey, this is Terry.
And Tracy.
We are going to be starting a new podcast here in Minneapolis called Eat This, Twin Cities. Why don't you tell everybody what that actually means?
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a weekly show on food, drink, music, events, and just other randomness. Anything great that's going on in the Twin Cities.
Plus, we're going to be doing some giveaways as well. That's right, prizes. People love prizes.
It'll be a ton of fun. Join us.
Tell us where they can find the podcast.
All right, it is eatthisTwinCities.com, or you can check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/eatthisTwinCities.
So, until next time,
Eat this, Twin Cities.
The Rusty Gatenby Review is the entertaining show about entertainment from movies, music, and more. Award-winning TV guy Rusty Gatenby and his review is the podcast with the biggest cast in entertainment, part of the Alive and Social Network. You can get that Minnesota connection to Hollywood and beyond any time of the day or night simply by clicking on the RustyGatenbyReview.com. That's the RustyGatenbyReview.com, part of the Alive and Social Network.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Joan of Art, the weekly podcast where we celebrate and investigate people who make art. We just had an awesome conversation with Erin Sayer and Yuya Negishi, who are still with us. Thanks a lot, guys. And I want to welcome my next guest, who is a new friend of mine, whose work I am so inspired by. Her name is Inna Valin. She lives in the Twin Cities, and she is a photographer whose work I discovered on Facebook, I'll admit. She was posting a lot of black and white photos of people that she would run into in different places throughout the Twin Cities. Mostly the ones that captured my eye were the photographs that she was taking of people on Nicollet Avenue. So welcome to Joan of Art, Inna. Thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So I just want to start out the conversation by saying that you're primarily a photographer. And I want to ask you this is like the worst question an interviewer could ask, but I want to ask, why photography? When did you start shooting, and what drew you to that medium?
I started shooting when I was about 12. I was dyslexic, and I wanted to draw, and I wanted to paint all these things that I was seeing, but I couldn't. Everything was backwards, and so I picked up a little camera, and I just became obsessed. And I'd spent all my money on film, and it just became my outlet. And I knew right away that's what I wanted to do, and that's what I did.
Very well, I might add.
Oh, thank you.
So I want to talk about the fact that you're shooting people, all sorts of people, and how I hate to compare you to another artist, but I just have to say that there is a part of the work that you do that reminds me very much of Diane Arbus, and not that you're capturing freaks or people who are really outside of society, but in some respects you do. And in your work, something that jumped out at me right away was just how well you're able to capture the whole person, and that you just really feel like you can get a part of their story from the image, even though it's assumed. I want to ask you, how did you approach shooting strangers, and sometimes people who are kind of living on the edge? Mm-hmm. How do you approach that? Because that, to me, seems like it would be extremely challenging.
Yeah, it is challenging. When I was about 19 years old, I went down to Guatemala, and I kind of cut my teeth doing street photography down there. And then I took a long sabbatical from that style. I call it a kind of muscle. You have to build up this kind of will to raise the camera and to point it at somebody, because it is kind of an aggressive act. But the more I do it myself, the more comfortable other people feel about it. And I've always kind of been curious person. I grew up in the mountains, kind of alone, kind of isolated, and so I've always kind of just been very curious about people and observing them. And so when I go out on the streets, sometimes I, make friends and have small conversations with somebody. Sometimes they're just walking by, and the juxtaposition of them in the public space is metaphorical to me. So it's, in downtown you have all these millions of different lives and different ideas, and we have the most international immigrants in the entire country here in Minneapolis. So I just see all these juxtapositions, of Ethiopian and Somali women coming in, to this modern world of feminism and with their veils, and the juxtapositions of that, with the big buildings, and, you just see all these different ideas within this brave new context of Western democracy. And I think we just live in a time now that is unprecedented, absolutely unprecedented. Never have so many different people lived under this one space of America, and these ideas are just so intriguing to me. So.
I remember one of your images that struck me and really stood out was of, I don't know exactly if they were Somali or not, but it was women in like full burqas with just their eyes showing in front of the men's warehouse.
Yeah.
Which was, and I remember we talked about that a little bit when you showed it to me, and about how the camera has to become almost like part of your body, because to get it to where you can shoot what it is you're seeing, you have to move so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. They're completely unstaged, so I'm, literally going around kind of ambushing people almost. And on that day, these 4 women had come out of Macy's, and they were completely cloistered, where just their eyes were showing. And even then, they had to pull down on these, just cloistering veils to see. And just at that right moment, they were, all 4 of them juxtaposed right in front of the men's warehouse sign, and it was just so ironic and beautiful.
Yeah, it's a brilliant shot. That's a brilliant shot. That's a prize winner. So I am not a photographer, but I lived in Brooklyn for a while, and I kind of was living kind of an edgy experience at the time, kind of living on and off the streets a little bit. And I shot people sometimes here and there just on my travels and stuff, but one time I took a photograph of a man who was sitting on the corner, and I was attacked. Oh. And I want to ask you, because I know that you had an incident recently, I'm just wondering if you're comfortable talking about like what happened and how you processed it and where you're at now.
Yeah. Well, I'd been going down almost every day to Nicollet, and, you get allies, and then some people, especially now, I think downtown is getting a little bit scary. There's some gang activity and some criminal activity, and so this one day I was down there, and this guy started doing backflips down the mall, which, he was like no shirt on, and so I took his photo, and he got very angry at me, and I offered to delete the photo, and told him I thought he was amazing. And
I mean, you would think that warrants some attention,
yeah,
right? One would assume that he wanted some attention.
Yeah, he was, very, he had this big blonde hair he had dyed and doing backflips down. And it turned out he had just tried to strong-arm rob somebody else. But he came up to me, and he said he was going to take my camera, and he grabbed it. And, of course, being from Colorado, I kind of kicked him in the groin, and then he kind of laid me down flat on my head, at which point I jumped up and went after him, which, I started screaming at him at the top of my lungs, which was not wise at all, because he had a huge knife. And, thank God it was right outside of Target, and a security guard grabbed him. And but it's really affected me. I understand people, feeling like maybe I'm invading their space or their privacy with the camera, even though it is constitutionally protected. It's a form of free speech that I think is so important. In Europe, they're voting on whether to take that right away from photographers. So, but it's a very American constitutional form of free speech. And some people, really enjoy it. Others question it. And when I tell them what I'm doing, then they understand. But yeah, for somebody to physically feel like they can assault me for that has been trying. I've gone back a few times, and then somebody else told me that they had beat up this alcoholic that I photograph frequently and have befriended. So I've kind of been staying away from there right now for the moment, and trying to do more events. And I just took a trip down to Chicago, where maybe because of Vivian Maher's recent discovery, people are more less reactive to a camera.
So you were in Chicago recently. Did you just go down there to shoot?
No, I went down there for my first trip with my new girlfriend.
Nice.
And she was very, very patient with me because I really am slightly obsessive when I do this, and I can just go for hours and hours on the streets. And so she was very accommodating, and just was with me while I was shooting, which was fantastic.
She's a keeper.
A keeper. Yeehaw.
Well, I mean, no, but it can be like really hard to have a partner who's an artist, and they're like so much more into what they're doing, and maybe you want to go do something else. But I mean, I can imagine that process would also be pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the photographs that you shot while you were there, and again, they're just beautiful and amazing.
Thank you.
You seem to find, I mean, I've been thinking about this a little bit, knowing that we were going to be talking, and I don't know how much you would relate to this, but I think that you might be hypervigilant in that you are just an excellent read of people, and so that people who maybe have a very rich character or something that almost goes beyond their exterior is something that you pick up on. Would you think that that might be true?
Oh, that's so nice of you to say. Yeah, I do think I have PTSD for sure.
Okay. That's another way to put it, right?
No, I really do.
Yeah.
I've had a difficult life and sometimes homeless and things like that. But I think as part of that vigilance is a certain awareness and maybe an ability to just see and capture quickly, because it is a real dance with the camera and street photography. You have to, really be at one with your camera and then also your will and your perception. So for me, it's just such a rewarding challenge to just go down the street and just make, just a statement with some person walking. And
do you ever have a dud day where you don't see nothing happens?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, something always happens. I've ended up trying to be the downtown social worker too, which I've failed miserably at.
What do you mean when you say that?
Well, there's been a couple times, this one girl was down there one time, and her boyfriend, she was traveling, she was homeless, and I ended up putting her in a car and trying to bring her, to a safe place, and she ended up being a heroin addict.
Oh, dear.
Pretty soon I have this heroin addict and her 2 dogs, and she's high in my car.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so I have to try to remember that I'm not a qualified social worker, sometimes.
But I think that's a testament to the fact that you're relating to the subjects, and there's a part of you that is shooting with a compassionate eye, and I think that really shows in your work. So probably finding a boundary between, kind of understanding that this person might be experiencing something dangerous and where you should maybe draw the line would be challenging. I know I'd have a hard time with that.
It's very difficult. And, I was homeless for a year and a half, so I understand where she was at. And there was people along the way, who fed me and, and I want to pay that back, but there has to be, there's a line between enabling and paying back, I think. And that's the line I have to find, because I'm not trying to exploit people. I want to make a difference in their lives, and I want to tell their stories in a compassionate way, but at the same time, I don't particularly want to get robbed or
attacked or die. I don't want that to happen either. But this is a really obvious question, but I'm thinking that time that you did spend homeless and living on the edge, and that really does come out in your work, and that I think, you know, I see a lot of your photography. Sometimes you find some really elite rich that look like really crazy characters in there. But that a lot of the subjects seem to be people who might be struggling or living on the edge, and that I'm wondering that there must be some connections in, you know, what you saw while you were experiencing that and what you're seeing now as a healthier and more stable person.
Oh, definitely. You know, I've always been kind of for the underdog. I think that's very American too. Just to be, you know, rooting for the underdog and wanting to tell their stories. And I guess I've experienced, and when I was homeless, I learned so much about what causes homelessness, and so much of it is just addiction. And so so many addicts, I think, are kind of dehumanized in a way. Oh, they're just a drunk, or oh, they're just a junkie. But they really are dimensional people from all walks of life, and you know, there's no magic cure. But I like to try to tell their stories in a compassionate way.
I think that's a really beautiful gift in the world. And you're right. I mean, I work downtown, and so I'm seeing a lot of the same demographic that you're seeing. And I know that homelessness is it's a crisis.
Yeah.
And it's a choice that our community makes also to just bear witness to it and not do anything about it. Not to say that there aren't a lot of incredible people and organizations that are fighting very hard, but it's still the reality that our streets are really littered with a lot of people who are, you know, who knows if they're going to make it, and who knows if they have anyone out there who cares about them, or any will to survive even. I wanted to talk also about, because I work downtown and because it's an issue that's like really close to me, I feel that our skyway system is a structural form of classism in many ways. And I know that people traverse the streets and the skyways, you know, but it feels very often to me that it's a lot of I'm up here and you're down there kind of mentality. And I don't know if you would corroborate that or if that's been your experience.
I haven't really explored the skyways. I always feel like, you know, having been victim of crime before, I keep myself in a place where I could always run away.
Wow, yeah.
So I haven't really traversed the skyways, but I have explored them from below photographically, and I can absolutely see what you're saying, because, you know, the silhouettes of the people, you know, in the skyways, it does seem like it is like a us and them thing. And that's a really interesting thing. Maybe I'll do some exploration up there.
Yeah, and maybe
I think legally I can. I think it's considered public domain.
Yeah.
Public space.
I could find out.
Yeah. My new series!
No, but I do think that, and if you're downtown when the corporate workforce goes home, it's a very different experience, too. It feels really different.
Yes.
I mean, I've worked outside working with artists, putting stuff in windows at night on a Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, whatever. And the streets feel a little different when...
Oh, yeah. It's all timing. It's all about timing, and there's like all these different... It's like all the, you know, there's completely different worlds that come in and out on that same patch. I mean, it would be really an interesting series, just, I'm thinking of it now, just to do an hour-by-hour series of shots, like of 24, like on the same street corner or something. That would be fascinating.
Hey, I'm for it. I think that'd be really cool. I mean, it'd be interesting what you find.
Yeah.
And if you were just really like trying to be objective and just saying, okay, I'm just going to shoot like whoever ends up here at this time.
Right. You know, like 12:01.
Right. Click. I mean, you could even just try that for a couple of days and see
that would be
how that looks. I think that I'd be really interested in seeing that, because I feel that cultural shift.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So.
And also the time of year too, because you know, when the summer ended, I was like, oh my God, you know, what am I going to do? And I just kept going down there when I could, you know.
Yeah.
And I got some really cool shots of winter in Minneapolis, I think, and the different people coming out. And so that was fascinating too.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that you're going to try to approach that downtown a little bit more so, or are you still kind of processing how you want to deal with it?
This weekend there were 4 shootings downtown. It's getting out of control. It really is getting out of control. So I'm probably going to stay away for a while.
And so then do you go like to fairs and festivals?
Yeah,
or?
I went to the Somali Independence Day Festival, which was just incredible. I mean, talk about, juxtapositions of
What is
different
Penance
worlds.
Festival?
Oh, no, the Somali Independence
Oh, I'm
Day.
sorry. Okay, I misheard you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is amazing. On Lake Street.
Yes.
Okay.
That was amazing. Just happened across that. I went to the Back to the 50s car show, which was just wonderful. Another fascinating subculture.
Totally.
So I'm kind of focusing on different subcultures right now. Although I have been known to shoot and drive, like on the way down here.
Uh-oh.
Sticking my camera at my car door while I'm driving on Lake Street.
Look out for Ina. What do you drive? No, I'm just kidding.
I didn't say that. I don't know if in St. Paul, if that's legal.
Yeah.
Probably not.
But it's a good shot. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it.
That's hilarious. So, where can we find your work? Where can people look at some of the images that you've shot?
Well, I have a website at www.innavalin.com, which is 2 N's, I-N-N-A, Valin, V-A-L-I-N. And then I'm also represented by Instinct Gallery on Nicollet, Instinct Art.
Mm-hmm. I love John Sherman. He's an awesome curator.
Yeah, he's wonderful. And I'll be in a show coming up there in the fall on empathy, the subject of empathy.
I just got a chill. That's perfect for you. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think he really puts together a great show. It's very thought-provoking, and
Yeah.
so I think this will be a really good one.
That's exciting. And you made a book, right? I mean, you made a small book. I
Yeah.
saw it. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Is that available, or is that something that you did in the past? Or
No, I have a few copies of it, mostly just to send out. That was about invisible women, about I don't know, in a woman's lifetime, I think there's, culturally or in pop art or commercial art more than anything, women are just represented during their years of fertility, and there's just so much more to a woman's life than those years. So
There
kind
was
of
like
focuses on that.
there was a really funny comedy sketch that I saw with Amy Shore. Do you know this, Erin?
Love her.
I know. I know. I do too.
So funny.
She is amazing. But it was about. It was her and the chick from Seinfeld. I can't remember her name.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah.
Tina Fey, Amy Poehler.
Do you remember what it was? It was like how long you can be fuckable in the media.
Yeah.
And like that's the only time they really matter.
They're celebrating the day where she was no longer fuckable.
Because it was all over.
Yeah.
The cameras
Then
would
you
never
didn't
be
have to
pointed
worry
in her
anymore.
direction
Yeah.
ever again.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Yeah, listeners, look that up. It's a really good sketch. Well, I want to really thank you very much for coming on this show. I am a huge supporter of the work that you do. I think that many, many more people are going to see and enjoy your work, and I look forward to seeing more to come. So thanks for coming on the show. I want to spin it back to Erin and Yuya because I didn't give you guys a chance to tell us where we can see more of your stuff. So can you share, Yuya, where can we find more stuff about you?
Yeah, uptown area, Japanese style bar called the Moto E.
Moto E.
Yeah, people pronounce Moto I,
Okay.
but Moto E. is
That's on
correct.
Lindale. So is your stuff
Yeah.
inside?
Yeah, all year round, small pieces, and also they have a Japanese restaurant called Fujiya. I painted the big mural outside, and then small pieces inside the restaurant. So
And your Instagram.
yeah,
What's your Instagram handle?
just Yuya Art.
Nice. Y
No.
U Y A.
Yuya Art.
Yeah, YUYART.
There we go. Awesome. And you, Erin, how about you? Where can we see more of your stuff?
I have a website, erinsayer.com, and my Instagram is @esayer.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank all three of my guests today. Erin Sayer, painter and muralist hailing from Minneapolis, but also traveling out to the West Coast. And Yuya Negishi, who does murals, and we can look for more murals on the Midway coming up. And Inna Valin, who is an incredible photographer. If you see her around, be very welcoming and supportive. Inna, thanks for all you do. Thanks, you guys, for
Thanks,
coming.
Joan.
Thank
you.
you for listening to Joan of Art. We will see you next week for episode 4.
No.